Welcome to a deep dive into, well, a pretty unexpected frontier. When you think Oklahoma oil and gas, right, that's what usually comes to mind. But what if we told you the state is making this bold, really strategic bet on something completely different, critical minerals? We're going to unpack Oklahoma's surprising move to become a leading force in refining rare metals, really driving America's energy transition.
That's right. And what's fascinating here, I think, is how the state is positioning itself. Really as a key player in the U.S. effort to reduce reliance on China in this whole critical minerals sector. We're talking metals like nickel, lithium, crucial stuff. So we'll explore the real potential behind this push, what advantages Oklahoma actually leverages, and also the significant challenges that lie ahead. Is this a gamble that could genuinely pay off, or maybe just a pipe dream?
Okay, so this Oklahoma mining renaissance, as some call it, it's centered entirely around critical minerals, not, traditional digging things out of the ground.
Yeah.
The state is rapidly building out its refining capabilities. We're talking the only nickel refinery in the U.S., apparently, and a massive lithium refinery. But hang on a second. I'm genuinely curious here. They don't have natural deposits of these metals, right? So how does this even begin to work? What's fueling this, audacious gamble?
Yeah, it seems like a contradiction, doesn't it? You'd think you need the stuff locally, but Oklahoma's strategy isn't really about the mining itself. It's tackling the refining bottleneck. See, it's not just digging these minerals out, the real pinch point where global supply chains get super tight, is that complex, very energy-intensive refining process.
Ah, okay. The processing.
Exactly. That's where you take raw ores and transform them into the high purity materials you need for, everything from EV batteries to advanced electronics. Oklahoma isn't mining, it's aiming to master that high value, high tech conversion step. And while, they don't have vast local deposits, their central location in the U.S. gives them some unique advantages for this part of the chain.
Logistics, then.
Yeah.
Being in the middle.
Logistics is huge. Think about the sheer volume of raw materials needed for these refineries. It's massive. Hundreds of thousands of tons. Oklahoma's existing heavy haul rail and highway network, which, was largely built for the oil industry, it isn't just convenient. It's like a pre-built industrial artery. Most states would have to spend a fortune and years building that from scratch. It's a massive head start.
Okay, so leveraging existing infrastructure, that makes a lot of sense. But surely there are other factors giving them an edge. I mean, other states might have good logistics too.
Absolutely. Beyond just location, they really boast a deep energy workforce. It's actually kind of fascinating to see how skills from the oil patch, that grit, the engineering expertise are potentially being repurposed. It's a bit like retraining a seasoned Formula One pit crew for a space mission. A surprising synergy, but potentially quite potent.
Interesting analogy.
And then there are the more direct things. Aggressive financial incentives for businesses, a regulatory process they've worked to streamline, basically making it easier for companies to set up shop quickly. Oklahoma is also home to some really top-notch energy engineers.
Yep.
But you're right to be cautious. These factors still don't completely negate the inherent lack of local natural resources for these specific minerals. It's definitely a calculated risk.
Right. And this push, it isn't happening in a vacuum, is it? It sounds like a lot of different pieces are falling into place. Who's actually backing this? Is it just the state?
Well, no, there's significant support from both state officials and private businesses. You see state actions like tax rebates actively encouraging international investors. We've seen Japan's Sumitomo, for instance, showing serious interest. That's a big name. It's a clear effort, really, to make critical minerals processing the next big economic driver for the state. They are really rolling out the red carpet.
Rolling out the red carpet, attracting major international players. Sounds good on paper, but I don't know. It almost sounds a bit too good. Is there a downside here, like relying so heavily on incentives? Or is there a risk these big companies might just pull out if the political winds shift? What's the biggest fear?
You've definitely hit on the twist. Despite all the backing and the hype, there is some real investor skepticism. And the challenges causing that doubt are pretty substantial. First, the critical minerals market itself is just inherently volatile. Prices can swing wildly, Then there are legitimate questions about the long-term sustainability of these facilities. Are they truly viable once the initial incentives maybe fade? And a big one, definitely, is the potential influence Washington might have over these local investments. Any sudden policy shift from D.C., maybe on trade or subsidies, could potentially, pull the rug out from under these projects pretty quickly. It's let's say, a pretty hairy landscape for anyone looking to put down serious long-term capital.
Okay, so definitely some risks.
Yeah.
But while those challenges are clear, there's also this other powerful undercurrent, right? This connection to the green energy transition itself. That seems like a positive spin for Oklahoma. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's a really compelling angle, actually. Many of Oklahoma's new plants are tied directly to green energy projects. The lithium and nickel refineries, for example, are being explicitly designed to be powered largely by renewable energy sources. And it's worth remembering, a large chunk of Oklahoma's electricity already comes from wind power. They're a big wind state.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize it was that high already.
Yeah, so it's not just about processing metals in isolation. It's about doing it in a way that supports the green energy transition itself. It creates a much more appealing, green footprint for these operations, which matters increasingly to investors and consumers. It definitely adds a layer of maybe future-proofing to their whole strategy.
That is a fascinating synergy. And connecting this to the even bigger picture, there's clearly a national security interest at play here too, isn't there?
Absolutely. That's a huge driver. The Pentagon is directly involved. We know there's a nickel supply deal reportedly in the works, specifically for things like military drone batteries. That demonstrates a really strong national security motivation for keeping these critical minerals processing capabilities within the U.S. on American soil, rather than, relying on foreign sources, especially given current geopolitical tensions. It's fundamentally about securing a vital supply chain.
Makes sense. Of course, a grand vision like this, it seldom unfolds without hitting some significant roadblocks. And maybe the most formidable one for Oklahoma lies, within its own borders, specifically its educational system. How big of a hurdle is that potentially?
It's a critical piece of the puzzle, yeah, and potentially a major sticking point. The state's education system, unfortunately, often ranks quite poorly in national comparisons, and that could make it really tough to attract and, crucially, to cultivate the high-tech talent needed for this new, very advanced industry. We're talking about highly specialized engineers, technicians, materials scientists.
Right, not just the skills from the oil patch, maybe.
Exactly. Some overlap, maybe, but also a need for new specific expertise. So while the push for critical minerals processing is promising, Oklahoma's future success really hinges heavily on how well it addresses these educational gaps and whether it can successfully lure enough top talent to the state to build a truly sustainable industry cluster. The big question, of course, is, can they close that gap in time? Can they ramp up fast enough to make this whole bet pay off?
So, pulling all these threads together, what really emerges is this picture of Oklahoma playing a very long game here. They've got financial backing, they've got the right kind of basic infrastructure, it seems, and a strong commitment from state officials. The state is taking a gamble, no doubt, but one that could pay off in a really big way. Whether it actually becomes the critical minerals hub the U.S. needs, or, whether these challenges, the talent gap, market volatility, proved insurmountable, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, what's absolutely clear is that Oklahoma's move is crucial in the broader context. The whole U.S. effort to reduce its reliance on China for these absolutely essential resources is definitely a high-risk, high-reward kind of bet. And like you said, only time will really tell how successful it will ultimately be. So, as you, the listener, consider this strategic gamble unfolding, what stands out to you? What do you think is the most critical factor in Oklahoma's quest? Is it the infrastructure, the government backing? Or maybe ultimately it comes down to their ability to cultivate the right human talent. Something for you to ponder.